This is the USS Northwest, the largest crabbing ship in the United States, claiming to go to sea to buy a house with wages. The Northwest is specially designed for fishing king crab. It is 40 meters long and 13 meters wide. In response to the Bering Sea and the Gulf of Alaska, etc., it is bigger and stronger than ordinary fishing boats. The engine has also been specially reinforced. Can sail in icy waters. In the Bering Sea, there is a crab. Everyone has heard of its famous king crab. The Northwest risked its way here just for it. As long as the luck is not too bad, get close to $100,000 every time you go to sea. King crabs live mainly in the Bering Sea and Alaska. The surrounding water temperature is 2-5 degrees. This also led to the desire to fish for king crab. That's why there's often thick frost on crabbing boats. Not only that, the crew also have to work against the huge waves. On the Bering Sea at -10 degrees, it's definitely not good being sent by the cold waves. Even the crew who often go out to sea to catch crabs, occasionally dizzy. What's more, they will suffer from deep sea phobia. To know, ordinary people in boats on a lake with only calm. Occasionally there will be an appearance of a transport ship. What's more, in the extremely dangerous Bering Sea, not only in the sub-zero cold, facing the impact of huge waves, but also bear huge bumps. If you don't pay attention, you will die in the sea, because it is often necessary to fight against the huge waves. In the eyes of the crew on the Northwest, there is no difference between the wind and the waves. Even sometimes need to brave the violence, work in wind and rain. But look at the salary slip. You will feel that this job is worth your life for him. If the waves bring in too much water, the crew also had to clean out the frozen machinery. Prevent the machine from being deformed or damaged due to freezing. After all, this is the Bering Sea. It would be a disaster if the boat lost power. Even if it's time to call for help, can also freeze the crew to death, because king crabs mainly live in the deep sea at 800 meters, and the activity time is not fixed at all, so it's impossible to take the stupid way of manual fishing, can only adopt the more stupid iron cage trapping method. The crew needs to move the baited crab pots, thrown into the sea one by one, and keep a record, then go back to the boat and wait a few hours. Come back and see if there's something in the cage, generally, before the official crabbing. We'll tentatively make the next batch of crab pots. After the time is almost up, the Northwest will go to these crab pots in turn. Salvage these cages one by one, then, depending on the situation, determine whether, in this sea, only after confirming all cages, only the captain has the right to make decisions on whether to fish in the area. After all, the probability of chance is too great. If not enough king crabs are caught, don't talk about paying the crew. The boss doesn't fire them, even if it is an outlier among capitalists. If there are king crabs in the first cage, no matter how much, it's a good start for the crew. At least it's better than ever to say no to king crab. It's much better if there's no less bait in the cage. But the fleet that dares to catch king crab, luck is usually not too bad. There is a regulated time for fishing king crab. The Bering Sea can only be fished from September to October. Alaska waters, fishing is only possible in November and February. These times all have one thing in common. That is, it is very cold. Very cold to be precise. In terms of time, these times are roughly in the winter. Don't say the temperature. Turning boiling water into ice can also freeze people to death. So as long as the luck hasn't returned home, you're sure to find a great fishing spot. Not to mention anything else, at least the minimum salary can definitely be kept. Before starting work, the first step is to get out of the cage. Under normal circumstances, the idea of hundreds of tons of king crab is gone. So every time the Northwest goes to sea, we'll bring hundreds of fishing cages. Put down a batch every once in a while. Of course, it's not messed up. To memorize charts, a wide range of fishing. Some places are trenches. It's impossible to catch a king crab, even if it's down. Even the cage may not be retrieved by then. Come out to work to make money. Even if you don't make money a few times, you can't lose money. A place where you can really get out of the cage, usually near the continental shelf. The sea floor at these locations is relatively flat, helps to better trap king crabs. After all, since it is a trap, naturally, the more obvious the better. After all, the IQ of king crabs is not high. The trap cage hidden in the corner may not be found, so the more obvious the place to put the crab pot, the better. If conditions do not allow, the crew can't wait to put it directly on the face of the king crab. After all, the wages of going to sea are high or low, but it is directly linked to the king crab caught. Is it possible to retire early at age 50? It all depends on the low IQ of king crabs. When retrieving the crab dragon, need to be very careful. The physique of the crab is very special. Bacteria proliferate for hours after death. Even if it is stored in ice cubes, there is no way to make it fresh. Therefore, the price gap between live crabs and dead crabs is huge. This is especially evident in king crabs, so fished out crab pots. Be very careful when in Qingdao. Still can't fish with ordinary. Fished up like a boat and dumped directly into the cabin. Need to take a metal container and ride carefully. I'm afraid that these crabs will accidentally fall to death. After all, these things are not fish. That's right, sir. Take good care of. Otherwise, these king crabs will die in minutes for you to see. To know every crabbing boat, each has its own quota. Once the fishing is over, no further fishing is allowed. So for every dead king crab, a huge loss for the crew. Of course, it's not a dead rule. King crab in some areas. Year-round fishing is allowed. Golden king crab. Year-round fishing in the very deep waters of the Aleutian Islands. No quota limit, but this kind of king crab is hard to sell at a price. After all, the red or blue in our impression. Different color king crab. Luxury goods can sell so expensive. Isn't it just relying on limited secondary capital? It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. You must bring guns and ammunition when you go out to sea to catch crabs. Reasons why crabbing boats go to sea: to carry guns and ammunition, not for protection against pirates. Captain Jack in Pirates of the Caribbean. Don't dare to sail excessively in the sea area. After all, being a pirate is about making money, not to die. Where there are people, there will be rivers and lakes. This sentence can not only be placed in martial arts novels, it can also be placed in today's society. In Alaska, crabbing circles. There is an unwritten rule. All crabbing boats. Everyone has to find their own crabs. Anyway, because it's an unwritten rule, so compliance is entirely voluntary, even if it is dishonest to abide by. The final result is nothing more than changing circles and continuing to mix. Some crabbing captains are very nasty. The heart will look for the sea area where the crab pots have been laid. Fish up their crab pots. See if there's a massive crab population here. If there is someone who can save me, I will try my best to find it. Can directly pick up ready-made, next to the crab pots that the other party has already placed. Down your own crab pot. Use more bait to attract crabs to crawl towards their own crab pots. Not only save time and effort, the other party can't do anything. I can only admit that I am unlucky, but if you want people not to know, you have to do nothing. Doing so is easy to spot. The opposite is simple. At this time, the captain will partly. The ashes of a friend or former crew member are scattered at sea. Then shoot like crazy. This is a way of offering sacrifices to the sea. But what is the aim? Only the shooter knows. If the black-hearted crabbers are around, the point of impact of the bullet will usually be the opponent, around the crab boat, if the other party is not nearby. Target of anger will pour on the buoy placed by the opponent. After venting your anger, the crew will also pull up each other's crab pots. Slash through each other's crab pots, then go back down untouched. The purpose of this is to tell the other party, I have found you. If you're still looking for something, we don't mind another sea festival. As for whether the bullet will miss, no one knows. Of course, in modern society, everyone is a law-abiding citizen. It's not worth sending yourself in for a little thing. Not to mention because of some people who don't follow the rules. Slag puts his own life on his back. It's even more worthless, since you did not abide by the agreement first. Then the rest of the crabbers broke the agreement. It's reasonable for you. In the Bering Sea, the last thing we need is the crab catcher, a master who has been working for more than 10 years. There are ways to teach him to be a man. Take the gun by force. Door guys are a reckless man who only swells his muscles, but not his brain. After all, although crabbing makes money, but the really rich, who would do such a dangerous job? Be safe, okay? Although working in the world, one of the most dangerous jobs, but crabbers are very concerned about their lives. Not when crabbing. King crabs that enter the crab trap are all trophies. Crews need to be screened. I don't want king crabs that don't meet the regulations or are small. It's not the kindness of the crew. Rather, the legal provisions can be strictly implemented. Once handed over in Chuan Port, king crab was found delivered. There are female crabs or juvenile crabs. The whole boat can't escape. Anyone who does not fall will be punished with a heavy fine. So the boatmen must keep their spirits up. Try hard to distinguish. King crab in hand. Is it male or female? After distinguishing between male and female, also, pick up a tool to measure the king crab. There is no way to bring back king crabs that are not the right size. Sometimes appear. Obviously, there are a lot of king crabs pulled up in this cage, but there are very few that can only be taken away. Empty. Happy scene. But even that's good news. It means there is a bigger crab group here. It is easier to catch king crabs that meet the specifications. Don't be afraid to fish out more and bring back less. I'm afraid of going down in a cage, let alone a group of crabs. There are no two crab shells. Or when crabbing time is about to pass, the crabbing boat will start returning. Except for these two situations, the crew will start to rest. Otherwise, even if you are tired, you will continue to work. Of course, there are always exceptions. If you don't want to do it anymore, you can find a reason to rest. But there is only one consequence. It means that once the ship docks, you will be fired immediately. And it's still a dismissal that never comes back. Even if you want to go to other crabbing groups, it's impossible. Because the number of people in each crabbing group is fixed. Rarely accepts foreigners, especially someone who got fired for being lazy. Of course, it is impossible for a crabbing boat for a year, in working condition all the time, still have free time. I often meet old acquaintances here, although I can't stop chattering at work. But if you come back to work later than me, you will most likely be greeted with a warm welcome. The welcome will be no less than a carnival. Eggs of various colors will greet you in the face desperately. Not even for a simulated naval battle. The captain will also have his employees tie the fireworks to the ship. Bombard you like a cannon. Usually there are only two options: die or surrender. Obediently wait for the opponent's Easter eggs or fireworks to finish. Or poke your head out of the captain's cabin window, holding the middle white section of the flag of France, waving, surrender. But this special welcome only for partners you are familiar with, used to catch the wind, wash dust, and wash away fatigue. After all, with the degree of danger in the Bering Sea, even if the old captain goes out, there's no way I'll be able to come back safely. Why king crab is so expensive. After watching its fishing process, you will understand. The moment the deck of the crabbing boat opens, alive, king crab. At this time, the crew members were nervous. The stones fall to the ground if the king crab dies in pieces. Not to mention making money, a ship of dead crabs can pay for the death of the captain. After the water in the storage bin is drained, king crabs will be caught in nets by the crew, transferred to shore, then sent to the designated processing factory. It's here, king crab will go through a new round of screening again. Vibrant king crab will be selected individually into the cold seawater. Enjoy the same treatment as before, will not be slaughtered immediately. Then they will be sent around the world. This may be the only time in this life that the king crab will be served. Day's chance. King crab left in bad spirits would not have such good luck. They're immediately sent to the dismemberment room for dismemberment and remove impurities. Cook in boiling water. Cold storage after cooling down. This is to ensure the meat quality of king crab. Maintain a relatively delicious, although not as fresh and tender as slaughtered and eaten, but it guarantees that it will not breed bacteria and meat aging. It can be said that the relatively cheap king crab on the market, that's how it's handled. But the king crab treated in this way and the live king crab, almost no difference. The reason for the large difference in taste, it is very likely that the chef's technique is unprofessional. After all, chefs who cook for rich people do it for us. The chef of the dish is not a level at all. Even with the same Michelin 3 stars, there is also a gap between chefs. These crab legs will be sent to the cafeteria or 5-star hotel. Sell at a relatively low price. King crab. The main reason why it is called king crab, not because it has the fate of an emperor, rather, it has a regal price. One king crab with meat on the skin goes straight to a few $1,000s. A third of the price of dismemberment is spent on skins. It can be said that I am not worthy anyway. The hairy crabs in Yongcheng Lake are also delicious. It's not that I can't afford king crab, but this is more cost effective. This is just the purchase price. As for the price of the Michelin restaurant, anyway, I'm short-sighted and have never seen. But with the Michelin 3-star brand and the hands of the chef, the price can only go higher. It is impossible to reduce the price. Don't you have to empty my wallet? This might even be a discount. Anyway, a wage earner will definitely not be able to eat it, but it's expensive for a reason. After all, there are only so many king crabs produced each year. In addition, the fishing environment is extremely harsh. In crab season, Bering Sea, on average, 1 crabber dies every week. It is one of the occupations with the highest death rate in the world. It's justified if it's expensive, but it really doubles the value of king crab. The old Taos who are still on the front line of food. These are not bad. Lord of money besides eternal life. Greatest hobby is food. Even immortality is for 2 more bites of delicious food. People can say that in order to eat delicious food, can pay a big price. Some Lao Tao even fished king crabs himself, just to eat the freshest king crab. It can be said that what you are used to requires fancy skills. Only the gourmet can complete the meal. I like this even without embellishments. All good food. After all, this is a holiday for your taste buds. Experience an authentic taste. What is it like? Relax a little. Feel the taste of the food itself.